First of all, I want to thank IIRA not just for inviting me to speak, to share my ideas with you, but also to arrange this kind of an online webinar on the very relevant issues today for the left and for the radical left too. So I'll start right away with my topic. Uh, so what are the strategies for us, for the radical left for us to chalk out, to strategize? So first of all, I must mention that capitalism is racialized, so are class, and the fascist Hindu supremacist nationalism, which is Islamophobic. And so far as the Marxist ideas, there are many Marxist ideas of race. They are not homogeneous. But as far as my ideas are concerned, my interpretations are concerned, it is trans-historical. I follow Charles' posts in this area. So it's trans-historical, ideological tool to keep the system going, but it's also connected to capitalist accumulation and competition. And this racism, or this idea, Marxist interpretation of race, keeps on differentiating conditions and nature of work, wages or wage rates, profit rates, and so on. This is uh, so far this is for the ideas on Marxism. I'm now going into since I'm coming from India, one of the prominent areas of South Asia, and where left and radical left are trying to chalk out their visibility through access to practice and their ideas. So I'm not going into the history of racism here, the manifestations I'll speak. It starts from the British colonialism of South Asia, and it is aggressively reinforced through our colonial contact. And many upper caste, upper class, especially North Indian, fair skinned, sharp features, they are the elements who collaborated with colonial rulers. In fact, they are created by the colonial rulers. This collaborative class were created by the colonial rulers to help them in ruling and in exploiting. So the legacy of British colonialism and the Indian upper caste, upper class, there is a great connection between these two. And of course, gender, different kinds of gender. I'll talk about the Dalit queer. The Dalit is a caste which is absolutely still now almost untouchable. So this first type of the legacy of British colonialism is our hatred for the black skin, because we have, following the master, the British master, the Indians, the ruling class and their compradors have almost internalization, the positive stereotypization of white skin and the negative evaluation of dark skin. And so the cronies also follow the masters in that way. And even today, we are having that feeling and attitude in our work, in our thought, in our writings. Uh, Afrophobia, hatred, terrible hatred for the African students who came for studying here in Delhi, in the West, like Bombay, called Mumbai now. And they are very much aggressively attacked, assaulted, stripped. They are not given any accommodation for rent in their houses. And they're perceived mainly as drug peddlers, thieves, and sometimes even as cannibals. So this is and there are lots of events or lots of cases like Kenyans, Nigerians, Congolese, Malis. So these people have been harassed like anything. Though there were lots of large radical left protest, student protest against this, but they are sporadic. What I want to say is not, we are not launching a systematic protest, they are sporadic protests. So this is one of our problems. So we should all know our problems, the nature of our state, the nature of our racism, in order to chalk out our strategies. Uh, there is ethnic racism, and in one of my interventions, I talked about the racism against the Northeast Mongoloid features, which were otherized in India. India wanted to uh, mainstream, even the non-BJP, the non-Hindu government, they wanted to mainstream the uh, all Indian cultures, because we have diverse cultures, linguistic traditions, many kind of diversities, but they are not trying to mainstream, but by mainstream the cultural specificities. So this is a kind of a colonization again, even after the British left. So this happens, and many times, especially it has increased with the COVID pandemic, because most of the time they were seen as, the Northeast Indians are seen as carriers of this virus. So they are attacked like anything. And sometimes people who are taking Ola or cab taxis here, they people ask, are you from Wuhan? So this is the extent of oppression, the verbal and racial oppression these people face. And since 2001, I'm now going into another kind of uh, racism, racial manifestation, which is connected to, of course, the Hindu right government. And since 2001, even then, there was an NDA, a variant of BJP government. The Vajpayee was there, and it stopped all attempts of the United Nations to link. There was a proposal to link casteism with racism in India. They refused to say that we neither have casteism nor do we have any racism. So, and there is one, I'll just give you one comment of a recent BJP Bharatiya Janata Party representative who says that we are not racist because we are living with the South Indian blacks. Just note these points, how they are ingrained in the mind and in their attitude and in their thinking process, the thought process. So I'm now coming into another very important aspect of Indian racism. It is the invisibilization and the retention of the super exploitation of the Dalits and the Adivashis. The Dalits and the Adivashis are supposed to be protected by the Indian Constitution, by the Scheduled Caste, Scheduled Tribe Act, protection against atrocities. But the government and the left, for the very beginning, they try to invisibilize or subsume this caste atrocities under class. I'm just giving you one example from the left in the colonial period, when they're trying to agitate, they're trying to seriously agitate against for trade union rights and other rights. But in Bombay, there was a famous textile union in 1920 run by the CPI, the Communist Party of India. But that time there was a huge strike wave, but mostly the members and the leadership belong to the upper caste, upper middle class leadership, who didn't talk about the demand of the Dalits that they should be given the access to the well-paid jobs like spinning the thread, which the other workers, the non-Dalit, non-Adivashi workers used to say, don't pollute the thread. Your touch will pollute the thread. So the trade union issue, the trade union at that time, even till now, they are not trying to make these demands a part of the class demands. They are not just caste oppression. Of course, caste oppression is not that trans-historical. It in India, it has its existence in the pre-capitalist modes of production to ensure the uh, competition, ensure the reproduction and production of labor power. And in many times, we see that this kind of uh, ideas came up, and Gandhi, who is famous, very famous for mass agitation, fought for the Indian middle class in South Africa, but not for the black people in South Africa. According to him, they're ugly, they're dirty, they eat beef, etc., etc. So he tried to, the mainstream nationalism, along with the CPI nationalism at that time, internalized this upper class, middle class notion within them. So then there was, then we have environmental destruction, environmental racism, where I'll just try to say where many kinds of transnationals are invited, and the Adivasis are the original settlers were evicted and they're made to work at a super exploitational level. So this happened, and Soni Sori, I'll talk about if I get some time in my intervention at the last portion of this discussion. Soni Sori, who tried to raise her voice against Dalit atrocities, against the state, against the Hindu state. She was raped, she was put into the custody, and stones were inserted into her vagina. So this kind of, and she was incarcerated for many years in the prison. And the left, where we even launched a struggle against only the police atrocity. It should be the struggle against system, against the privatization, against giving all the lands and our resources to transnational corporates. So our struggle should be more focused. And I want to say there are some racial dynamics. There are on the two things. One, we should remember as radical left, it's my suggestion. One hand, racial oppression has its autonomous dynamics, but on the other, it also reinforces rules of capital, its processes of reproduction and production of labor power. So the parliamentary left, as in Kerala, we find they talked about Dalit issues, but the land reform which they did was not, didn't go in favor of the Dalits. They didn't get land rights. But for the scavenging, for the manual scavenging, for removal of dead bodies, they only, we only keep the workers today, the non-Adivasi, non-Dalit workers, even they accept that Dalits will do this, the Adivasis will do this, they are the untouchables. So I would like to go into the last portion of my talk. It is that we are unable to launch a systematic intersectional models of resistance. That is, it is not like a Heidi Hartmann's dual system, that is class and its fragments, as Marx used to say in his introduction to the Hegel's critique of right, where he says proletariat is a universal class. So they cannot emancipate without emancipating all layers of oppression. So all layers of oppression are also connected to class. I'm not talking about class reductionism, which even today is the highly divided radical left are trying to do. So they are not launching an overall struggle. The Dalit queers were absolutely left out. So who will talk about these issues? The trade unions, the parties should try to make the program, they draft their program in such a way that these issues come into not just into the manifesto, but into the terms of work. So they should be also, the Dalits and the ethnic groups, the ethnic minorities, they should be given the chance to go to the leadership, to talk about their rights, which is also political rights, which is also class issues. They are not just caste issues or race issues. So this kind of battle, this kind of intersectional battle in the Marxist sense of the term, not just sections lying parallelly. I'm not trying to say in that way. So we have to be very concerned. We have to be also very clear about uh, launching the struggles in the terms which were demanded by the Adivashis, by the Dalits. So their ideas and the workers, the working class in general, should be uh, given a political education. Should be given a political education that Dalits' rights are also working class rights, Adivashi rights are also working class rights, racist issues are also class issues. And if we don't just, we talk about only reservation for the Dalit caste and the Adivashis without talking about without talking about a fight against the Hindu right with its regressive ideas, uh, then the struggle will be very, very sectional. It will be an incomplete struggle. We have to launch a holistic struggle against the system. Otherwise, this racism, this ideas of different kinds of exploitation will not stop. Thank you.